All right, welcome to the DSA Million Dollar Blueprint, where we discuss opportunities for people of color in the construction industry. Now, today I have a special guest. It's a good friend of mine, Mr. Gary McGuire. Gary, how you doing today, brother?
Wonderful, Darryl. Wonderful. Been busy, doing great. Pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Okay, man. Gary, you've been in construction for a long time. What do you do and how do you do it?
I've been in construction business since '01. I do residential and commercial construction, and I am a general contractor. And on the remodeling side, I do remodeling in new homes. And on the commercial side, I'm working more on the parking garage side right now with a private company, and I'm looking forward to a lot of other things here within the next 3 years.
Oh, man, that's good to hear. Now, how did you get started in the industry?
Well, I got started in the industry back in '01, and I just had a different perception of, hey, let me do something different. I had an idea of, let me do something back home. I started working with city government, with the mayors of small towns on the remodeling side. I started working back with the EDCs, and I started doing remodeling, and then I got into new construction here in the city of Houston. And then I moved forward with, working on apartments, working with tax credits, working with some of the people with HUD. And so everything began to be formulated into, working single family, remodeling, new construction, and apartments. So you have a mixture of all three. And I've had a chance to experience all three, I've had the volatility of good years and bad years, but, I've paid my dividends and I'm loving it right now.
All right. How did you prepare yourself for this?
Willing to take the risk.
Okay.
Willing to do the work. When I say willing to do the work, not trying to be in the construction business from an iPad or a computer from a truck. You got to get out in the field. You got to meet the suppliers. You got to go to the courses. You got to get the equipment. You got to put it in your hand. You got to wear the uniform. You got to be willing to go out there and work with your employees and your workers and your trades and understand what's going on. You got to work with your engineers. You got to work with your electricians. You got to work with the whole gamut in order to be in the business and understand it.
Yeah, you got that right. What are some of the obstacles that you've had to deal with, and how did you overcome those?
Well, the obstacles is minorities not really wanting to work. African Americans, that's been the obstacles, not understanding the work. And so you go out there today on the commercial and residential side, you see a segment of 85% Hispanic, doing the labor, working the equipment, running the machines. You see maybe 6% African American. You maybe see 6 to 10% Caucasian out there, who's in charge of everything. And there's very few African Americans out there that are really in the business, running the business, and you have to be in the business.
Okay, how does that make you feel?
Well, it's really alarming. I mean, number one, you got to want to work. It's just like saying, I'm on the basketball team, I'm on the football team, but really, you're on the team or you're out there playing. And so the initiative I take is getting involved.
Now, how do you get involved?
As I said earlier, you have to be willing to get dirty, first of all.
Okay.
You have to be willing to get certified. You have to be willing to operate the equipment when you're short workers out in the field.
Okay. Yeah, I found that just, having my own experiences, getting people motivated, and I find that to be, that's where the challenge is how do you motivate people? Tell me what a typical day on a construction site for you is like.
Well, a typical day is I'm up around 4:30, and I'm at the site usually around 6:15, 6 o'clock. I'm walking the site early before my guys get there. That's important because of the previous day's work. I'm walking to see where we ended up, where we're headed, down the path as far as performing, because these jobs, as you said, Darryl, you have to perform. You have to perform well, and you're getting graded every day. And then I'm coming back, with my crew and saying, hey, this is what we need to do. And what's important on some of these sites, well, basically all of them on the commercial side, is being able to have safety in place, being able to clean up after yourself, and being able to go over where you worked in a certain segment of the job, whether you're putting together beams, whether you're grouting, whether you're patching. You have to go through and look at your work and see, is your work up to par to meet the prerequisite to move forward to pass the inspection.
That's thorough. Now, what I find interesting is that you just laid out basically how work is set up. What are some of the other do's and don'ts that you see? on the projects that you work on? Tell me some of the do's. What makes you happy as a business owner?
Well, being able to teach and learn and getting certified, going through, learning, seeing how to operate equipment and learning certain skills, putting things in your hand, being able to put on the harness up, being able to get on top of a parking garage, being able to grout, being able to patch, being able to get on your knees and do things. And as people are watching you, the superintendents and the project managers, they're saying, hey, this owner of a business, he's out there involved with his guys, because if I'm short, if I've got 2 guys off, if I have 2-3 guys to move to a different site, well, I've got to step up to the plate, because this job has to move forward, and each job is on a time segment and a time frame to get done.
All right, what are some of the don'ts? Let me explain some of the don'ts. One is that I've had situations where I've gone to a concrete pour and the contractor that I was monitoring came out there with their pajamas. I've had situations where you were telling me that you had a situation where people were firing up the pit and picking up people from the Home Depot and trying to make them into skilled laborers. What are some of the other don'ts of what not to do on a construction site?
Well, Darryl, you're right. Yeah, some of the don'ts is don't barbecue on a Saturday at 8 a.m., not 8 p.m., and you're not performing. That's one of the don'ts. One of the other don'ts, don't come out to a site in warm-up bottoms, or with a rapper shirt on. Come out to the site prepared to work. Come out to the site, with your hard hats on. Don't override your immediate supervisor. If you're working under a company, if you're working under an owner of a company, discuss things with the owner or who the owner has under him. Don't go directly to a superintendent or a project manager or to the owner of the job. Those are the don'ts. Be professional, be on time, be safe, and work within the parameters of what you have to work with.
Okay. Well, one thing, Gary, I know you don't like me to talk about your business, but I have to talk about my friend. My friend used to be a former linebacker for the University of Houston,
right,
leading tackler in U of H history. And so my question to you, Gary, is that being a former athlete, how did that help you in your transition into construction?
Well, first of all, you have to earn respect. And when you earn respect, just like in athletics, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, you have to go out there, you have to be early and stay late. Same thing in the construction business. You have to be there early and stay late. And if you're out there, it's one thing on a construction site that I watch. I watch 2 things. I watch hand movement and feet movement. If I see a person, a man or a female, walking around slow and their hands are not moving with tools, don't need them.
Yeah,
Same thing in
sense.
athletics.
Mm-hmm.
You look at a football field, basketball court. If your feet are slow, your hands are not moving, coach can't use you. You have to be willing to put in a sacrifice and willing to earn the respect of other people.
Okay.
You got injuries, it's going to hurt. It's going to be hot. You got the conditions you deal with. But in the end, like you said, Darryl, you got to perform. You got to check off on your paperwork every day. You have to read your reports every day. You have to understand how to read plans every day. Like a coach is drawing up plays. You have to know what everybody else is doing around you. Commercial side, safety is a big issue. I know at this previous job, 3 weeks in the job, one guy had his finger cut off, working out there on the EE Reed. And so they had safety issues. They came out there, had to step up compliance, but that's important. It makes everybody aware. And, you appreciate these things if something goes wrong.
I mean, it makes sense, makes a lot of sense. So one thing I can say is that remarkable about your career, you started off in residential doing remodels, then you were building homes, then now you're doing commercial construction. Talk about that transition.
You know what? It's been an excellent transition. I had a chance to work with you over at Grahala and
Island, yep.
And you really brought me up to speed on the technical aspect of this, being bonded, having general liability insurance, workers' comps, RS means. Those are important things. Reading plans, Darryl, going to a different level. And, right now it's paid off.
Okay.
And so I'm working with a private company in a small town, and they presented the opportunity to me to do a pilot because they're short on labor. And through my company right now, I'm getting ready to bring on 9 more employees. And they're going to be working under my company as a sub. But what it's done, it's abstain or relieve the the manufacturer of the liability, and I've taken on the liability, but these individuals will have an opportunity to come in and pick up a skill and a trade and to help support their families and possibly go into a different segment of the business. And hopefully over the next 90 days, if it's a success, we look to bring on about 50 to 60 more people.
Man, that's fantastic. I know 50 or 60 people that are looking for some solid work. That's one of the reasons why we do this show, to talk about the opportunities, especially for young folks. Find the opportunities, look at construction, is that there is a career track and there is viable options. One of the things that I have to ask you is that because you've done this type of work, how do you get the superintendents to pay attention to you? How do you get the E.E. Reeds, the Turners, the Gilbanes, how do they get them to look at Gary McGuire development?
First of all, they run the show. You can't let prejudice be involved, because if you know the Hispanics are out there performing, doing the still and erecting the still, you know if you've got a Caucasian guy out there who's a superintendent and then a project manager Hispanic, and you're under a group of people that are doing a $50 or $180 million project, well, they run the show. They've been around for years. Mm-hmm. That's why the owner trusts them. So you have to report to them every day, adhere to their protocol, resolve any issues with them, and you just move forward. And you have to let your employees know who's running everything. You don't get into it with the project manager or the superintendent or the people that's working under them. You're a team. You have to work with these people and make sure that you earn their respect.
All right.
Simple.
Yep. Respect is big. Do you have any mentors in the industry and people that you look at?
Well, you're one of them.
Well, thank you, brother. I appreciate
that. Thank you for inviting me on, and you're to the point. And you tell a person what they don't want to hear, but it's the truth. It's cogent. And it keeps them safe in the business. Again, if you're looking to be in this business, people say, well, I'm in the construction business, or I can drive a truck, I can do this and that. Yeah, are you in it from your desk? Or are you in it from an iPhone or iPad? Are you out there with boots on, jeans, knee pads, a harness, driving a boom lift? Or are you on a scaffold, grouting, helping your people? You're in the business, not from behind a desk.
Okay. So I have to ask this question. I have a lot of young people looking at you. They want to be Gary McGuire in a couple of years. What advice would you give them?
Don't capitulate. Don't give up. You're going to have a lot of people that are going to doubt you. They're going to doubt your reputation. Mm-hmm. That's fine. I mean, that comes with business. Mm-hmm. But the thing about it is resilience. The thing about it is staying persistent with performing, staying persistent with meeting the right people, going out, keeping the right people in your corner, and continuing to work hard every day. Again, coming in early, staying late, looking at the opportunity and seizing the opportunity, and willing to work, willing to put your hands on out there and get with your employees and work with them.
Okay, so basically what you're saying is it doesn't matter if you're black, green, white, brown, yellow, it's that you just have to show up.
Exactly.
Okay, so is that what you would say to the African American community and women, that to get them to be encouraged to look at opportunities in construction? How do you see, if you had your way, how would you increase those numbers?
I would first of all let them know it's there. Mm-hmm. If you want it. It's not going to be easy. They're looking for African American women and African American males. Mm-hmm. And they're going to test you, because they want to test you to be able to depend on you if something goes south. Being able to look at another job, say, I want to put you here. I like the way you perform. I know you're just beginning, but you can grow.
All right. Well, there you have it. I will just say this, Gary, it is both a privilege and an honor for you to be on our podcast. Really appreciate the bits of wisdom that you provide us, and I wish you much continued success.
Thank you. It's a pleasure for having me, Darryl.
All right. Thanks again. Okay, we're going to take a break with the DSA Million Dollar Blueprint. Now, you've heard from the master. Now we're going to talk to the kids. All right, and we're back. I have to thank Gary McGuire for talking to us about the opportunities with his company and his adventures that he had. But now I have my pride and joy, my youngins, is that these are some outstanding young adults that work for DSA. And I'll just start with my site manager.
What's going on? This is Jorje.
Jorje. And
Hello, I'm Austin.
All right.
Hello, my name is Carla Forro.
All right. And
my name is Uhegwu.
all right. Tell me a little bit about yourselves.
So I've been in DSA for like 3 years now. Appreciate everything that you do for me, though.
Well, I like you being there. You do good work.
Thank you.
All right.
Hey, I'm Austin. I've been with D. Samuels more like 3 months, but I've had a relationship with D. Samuels and Associates longer, and I just love what Darryl's doing. I'm glad to work for him.
How do you feel about D. Samuels and the site team?
Oh, excellent. Jorge's a great supervisor.
There you go.
And I've been at the DSA for about 3 weeks, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I've also been there for about 3 weeks or so, and yeah, I like everybody there.
Okay, well, we're glad that you like everybody. One of the things that I'm very proud of the fact is that I have my youngest ones are engineering students. How did you get into engineering? Why choose engineering?
I chose engineering because I had a lot of exposure throughout high school, and for that reason, having that experience and participating at different events, volunteering outside of school, it just developed my interest to be an engineer.
Okay, what about you, Brian?
So for me, it's kind of always been like my passion and like hobby since I was younger. So like when I was younger, I would like take stuff apart, all these kind of things. And
All right. So did you know anything about construction before you started working with us? Be honest.
No, not really, no.
Okay,
Not much, no.
so my question is, for what you've learned in construction, how does that apply to your engineering careers?
So from what I've learned, it's like it taught me that construction is a very wide base, and it encompasses a lot of things, including engineering. So for me personally, it was very eye-opening because it allowed me to like also like be more open-minded about these things. Like there was a stigma on it beforehand that I myself like kind of fell into, even though I knew that this probably wasn't true. Like I knew that it existed. So.
Okay. All right. So what attracted you to be a DSA summer intern?
Well, I liked the approach of the company, and I asked questions, and you answered them honestly. And so I said, well, this is an opportunity. No knowledge is wasted knowledge. So.
Okay. What about you, Carla? Why? Let me tell you about Carla. Carla has the strongest handshake I have ever had. Why did you become a DSA intern?
Like what Brian said, I like the approach of the company and to gain some experience and know more about the construction industry.
Okay. So most of you have participated in our Combine and also in our $1 Million Blueprint program. Austin, tell me a little bit about your experiences in working with us in the Blueprint.
The Blueprint, from the first day that I went, I was like, I'm going to come back here. When I heard it was like about 5 or 6 weeks, I was thinking about the time and I was like, do I really want to do this? But I was like, no, I love the information. I was like, it's free. All this information is free? Oh yeah, I'm going to be there on Tuesdays and Thursdays if it's, an hour or 3 hours.
Okay. What did you learn from it?
I learned the possibility of making $1 million or more in construction, and that made my eyes light up. I'm like, I don't know many industries where that's a possibility.
Okay. What about you, Carla?
I learned a lot in the Blueprint because of the information, like what he said, and having that the experience, the culture of what the industry is. What are you giving?
Okay. Was there anything that stood out? Because basically the Blueprint consisted of 5 modules. We talked about career assessment, see what your skills are, and you participated in the Combine. Brian, how did you do in the Combine?
I did pretty well in the combine.
All right.
I think. I hope.
Okay.
The combine, though, I think that it was a very valid like application of skills.
Okay.
Because I feel like, how to put it, like they wanted to see if you could do certain things like that would be applicable to
Right.
like,
Can you
construction.
read a ruler?
And yeah, can you read a ruler?
Can you lift the
And, like, yeah,
weights?
Can you lift like 100 pounds to a certain distance? Or like, can you do basic math skills? Like, can you like execute like mental judgment and all that
Mhm.
kind of thing? So, I feel like that was a very good like way that you executed that in the combine. So,
Okay. So you see why we did that. Just because we wanted to see what, do you really have the skills to, participate in the construction industry? Because one of the things we always talk about, construction is not just the labor, it's the administrative and the management aspect. Because what we want to see you do, we want you to start off out in the field as a laborer, but we want you to move yourself up to being a project manager and to eventually a business owner. So that, going into the next components, we talked about, let's see if I remember correctly, because we did the program, is that we talked about career development. We showed you that there was a choice, that you had a career track. Then we talked about investments. What did you learn about the investment side? Austin?
Well, investments was the part of the blueprint that I was always familiar with. But I love the fact that there are plenty of options that are made. An investment is, putting money in your savings or CDs or stocks, bonds. We even had a stock game. I forgot what it was called. I think it's like, the Blueprint stock market game. And I did very well the first few weeks, and then I was like in third place, and I'm like, how did that happen overnight? But everything in the Blueprint was about long term. It's not about getting rich quick or $1 million tomorrow. It's you have to be in this for the long haul.
Okay. Now, one of the things that we also talked about was real estate, and we played a mean game of Monopoly. What did you learn from playing Monopoly?
Life comes at you fast. That was a very interesting game of Monopoly.
Okay. Yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah, because it lets, at least for me, it let me know that even though you might have all these things, like you can still have a very serious lack of funds if nobody comes to where you stay.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Sometimes I find that just using the board games kind of illustrates the points that we want to make. And, and then when we finally talked about entrepreneurship, we played an actual game called the construction game. And that seemed to be really long and tedious. What did you learn from playing that, Carla?
I learned that the game is a long process and that you need to have some invest into some equipment and having that different projects along the way to work on.
Okay, you're absolutely right. Is that you have to have equipment, you have to have money, right?
Yeah.
Is that
Yes.
basically, because the blueprint is that we concentrate on showing not just the career choice, but we show you how money works and how money works in the construction industry. So my question to you is that we had 9 kids that participated this year, so that was a record for us. Is that what would you say to recruit other people your age to participate, not only in the blueprint but in the construction industry itself? And I'll leave that with, I'll start off with Carla.
Oh, that's a good question. For people my age, I think that they need more exposure to develop an interest, and having that interest, they'll be able to experience what the construction industry will look like.
Okay. Brian, what do you think?
I feel like what people like she said, what people my age need is an eye opener, like a way for them to get out of their mindsets of having a certain stigma upon the construction industry. Like, for example, like there's a stigma that they think it might be a dead-end job, which isn't true. People make actual careers out of it, but of course, like a lot of them don't know that. So,
Okay, that's good to know. Now I'm going to leave with my heavy hitters. Is that the reason why I asked all 4 of you here is that many of my colleagues say it's difficult to hire and work with millennials and Generator X's. is that what would you say to them in order to change their minds? Why should we work with you all? And I'm going to start off with Jorge.
What was the question again, sir?
The question is that why, we have problems working with and understanding millennials and Generation X. Convince me why we should work with y'all.
I know millennials get a bad rep, but every now and then you get a good one like me, like Austin, Carla.
Okay.
Brian, but yeah, I mean, I'm not sure, to be honest.
Okay, no, you've answered it right. It's one of those. It's a show me thing. So
I mean, you really can't pick them off just by looking at somebody. Be like, oh, he's gonna be a good worker. I mean, you gotta show me you could work for me.
Yeah, that's true. That's how I am. What about you, Austin?
I think for myself, I'm a big picture thinker. So I'm just like Jorge said, just show me.
Yeah.
I think a lot of Generation Xers, if this is how I looked at it. There are a lot of industries that when I graduated from college, we thought those jobs were going to be there and they weren't. The careers that were there, they're not there anymore. Construction for thousands of years has been an industry that has never really seen layoffs like a number of industries. So I'm like, long term, a lot of millennials need to get into construction because it's going to be there forever.
All right, Carla?
Like what everybody said, that show me and tell me, and having that exposure will help them convinced of what the industry would look like.
All right, and last but not least, go ahead, Brian.
So
take us home.
Essentially, I guess I'm saying the same thing here because I'm the last one. But I'm the type of person where if you show me exactly how this is going to happen, why this is so beneficial, etc., then I'm gonna take it as it is. Like it's gonna open like my eyes to see that it's not this, it's this. So
okay, well that makes sense. I think. Well, there you have it. So basically, what you're saying is that you just have to show me.
You just gotta show me, man.
Show me. Okay.
You just gotta show up for work and
just
do your job, and that's it.
You're right about that. Well, you've heard it from my youngins, my pride and joy of DSA. I want to thank you for participating in our podcast. If you would like to know additional information about DSA, the DSA Million Dollar Blueprint, or the Construction Combine, just look us up at DSAMLLC.com. With that, I'm going to have to shut it down. I'm excited that y'all are here, but I look forward to the next podcast. So I say thank you very much. Thank you all.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Okay.